Spotting one mouse or cockroach scurrying across your floor is enough to send that icky tingle up your spine. Even if the exterminator says that the problem is solved, you might never feel at ease in your own home ever again. Every little rustle could be their little feet scampering inside the walls. Well, these infestations weren't so subtle. These creepy crawlies spilled in by the millions, devoured everything in their path, and in some cases caused national states of emergency. Here are the 10 largest infestations in history. The largest in-home roach infestation ever recorded. In 1979, police in Schenectady, New York responded to a call about a barking dog. When they opened the apartment door, they were immediately overtaken by an ankle-deep horde of cockroaches. The roughly 3 million German cockroaches stretched from wall to wall, floor to ceiling, and spilled out onto the street, blanketing any responding cop cars. Officials came to realize that 2 elderly women were actually living in the apartment with 24 dogs, 15 cats, 2 mice, and a parrot. The women were treated for their head-to-toe cockroach and flea bites, while many of the animals were so badly roach and flea bitten that they had to be put down. When the building was demolished, multiple pest control teams sprayed insecticide over a 3-block area, since the roaches flooded into the streets, sewer lines, and into neighboring houses. The bedbug czar of New York City. In the early 2000s, New York City was averaging roughly 82 reported cases of bedbug infestations per year. In 2010, then Mayor Michael Bloomberg declared a full-blown public health emergency when the city suddenly reached a staggering 24,000 reports of major bedbug infestations. Several stories like Victoria's Secret, Hollister, and Nike's flagship store were closed due to massive outbreaks. Clothing stores like these were deemed super spreaders since customers would buy infected clothing, wear them to work, theaters, restaurants, and then back home with them at night. Mayor Bloomberg even set up a bedbug advisory board and appointed a bedbug czar with the sole purpose of taking back the city from these parasitic bloodsuckers feeding on its citizens. They wouldn't claim victory for another 4 years, but reported cases are back again on the rise. The Black Death. Known as the worst plague in human history, an estimated 75 to 200 million people died in Europe and Asia's bubonic plague of the 1300s. For centuries, people blamed the Black Death on rat infestations around the Mediterranean Sea, but in 1898, French physician Paul-Louis Simond discovered that fleas carried by the rats were the actual superspreaders. The invasive black rat species carrying the Oriental rat flea came to Europe on warships from the Golden Horde Army in 1347. The rats thrived in the poor sanitary conditions of European cities, and once the fleas they carried spread to human hosts, it wiped out nearly half of the European population. Infected people developed egg-sized plague boils and experienced fever, chills, vomiting, and diarrhea before dying soon after. In some cases, people who were perfectly healthy went to bed and would be dead by morning. The largest mouse infestation in US history. In 1926, the Bureau of Biological Survey launched a short-sighted project to eliminate coyotes, hawks, and other predators in Kern County, California. This unfortunately let the region's mice population breed unimpeded, and a rainstorm triggered an abrupt rodent migration. In what became known as the Great Mouse Invasion, a mouse army of 50 million strong flooded into the small town of Taft, California. Witnesses described the main highway as slushy with dead mice. Residents complained of mice running across their beds all night long and said that the mice were so insatiable that they overtook and ate an entire sheep in its pen. At its peak, the population reached over 100 million, which was roughly 20,000 mice to one Taft resident. Just as authorities launched their all-out offensive, every variety of predatory bird returned for an epic feast, and another large rainstorm drowned the rest. Cow draining mosquitoes. In 1980, Stephen Perry's Texas farm was swarmed by black clouds of salt marsh mosquitoes. At a quarter-inch in length, salt marsh mosquitoes are larger than the average backyard variety and are known for aggressive biting and a tendency to appear in large numbers. They immediately settled on his herd of grazing cattle, and one by one, the cows started dropping dead. In total, 4 bulls, 3 horses, and 40 cattle died of blood loss. Scientists at Texas A&M Veterinary Labs determined that the cows were drained of 5 gallons of blood, which is over half of a cow's normal blood supply. One researcher calculated that it would take 3.8 million mosquito bites to drain one cow of that much blood. No humans were ever killed, but several people were chased indoors or into cars by the insatiable bloodsuckers. Locusts of biblical proportions. In 2013, Madagascar experienced one of the biggest locust swarms in recorded history. The single swarm measured 15 kilometers in length, and at its densest, it had as much as 80 million thumb-sized locusts packed into 1 square kilometer. The swarm infested over half of the island's cultivated land, wiped out the crops of entire farms, and in total caused the loss of 630 tons of rice and maize. Once the food security and livelihoods of 13 million people were affected, Madagascar's agriculture ministry declared it a national disaster. 9 million of the country's residents rely on this food production as their main source of food and income. The country pleaded for roughly $22.4 million in foreign aid to buy pesticides, train pilots, and rent helicopters needed to spray pesticides. The Walk of Ghosts. In 2009, citizens of the Dutch city of Rotterdam woke up to find that their entire town was blanketed in spooky-looking ghostly webs. They were horrified as they thought their trees, streets, yards, and cars were covered in spider webs, but were slightly relieved to find that they were just tens of thousands of ermine moth larvae. As a defense against birds and other predators, these moth caterpillars work together to excrete a gluey fabric in the process called tenting. It made global headlines as they completely covered a man's car. Since this massive swarm stripped the town of its tree leaves and covered it in white, some residents described it as a creepy winter wonderland. Others simply called it the Walk of Ghosts. The Narnias snake dens of Manitoba. Every spring, a horde of 75,000 red-sided garter snakes descends on limestone caves in the small town of Narnias, Manitoba. It is the single largest gathering of snakes in the world. The slithering, writhing serpents form mating balls where roughly 100 males vie for a single female. You'd think this infestation would cause a mass human exodus, but snake lovers actually come from all over the world to see it. During peak tourist season, the snake dens host anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 visitors per day. In past years, the town's main issue was the snakes slithering along the highways, of roughly 20,000 of them being run over by the very tourists coming to see them. A local legend is that the roads became so oily with dead snakes that cars were skidding off roads. In recent years, the number of dead snakes was reduced to about 2,000 as pipes were installed underneath the highway for the snakes to safely pass. A call for extreme spider help. In 2009, the Baltimore wastewater treatment plant put out an emergency call when they found that a giant spider web was covering almost 4 acres of their facility. The 5 mid-career entomologists and arachnologists who arrived said that they were, quote, unprepared for the sheer scale of the spider population and extraordinary masses of the sheet-like webbing. They then stated that it was far greater in magnitude than any other previously recorded aggregation of orb-weaving spiders. They estimated that the superweb contained over 107 million spiders, with densities of over 35,000 spiders per cubic meter in spots. The web filled over 95% of space in some rooms and was so dense that it pulled 8-foot-long fluorescent light fixtures out of place. Chicago has one big rat infestation. Dubbed the rattiest city in America for the last 9 years straight, Chicago receives anywhere from 50 to 65,000 rat complaint calls per year. There are roughly 647 rats for every 100 citizens, and with a population of 2.7 million people, there could be as many as 17 million rats running rampant in Chicago. The only species known to plague the city is the Norway rat. These females can give birth to more than 50 offspring per year, and since they can reproduce after only 2 to 3 months, a single pair of rats can turn into several thousand in 1 year. While residents struggle to find clean, safe housing, the city has begun issuing rat-related fines to any landlord or builder who aren't taking the proper measures. Over 117,000 tickets have been issued since 2019, with those fines totaling $153 million. But that's all for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please help me out in the algorithm by leaving a like and a comment. And of course, if you really enjoyed it, please share this video. And of course, follow me on Twitch. I'm live almost every single day. Link is in the description with all the other socials. And other than that, I will see you guys next time.